Right. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Kim Heil, Proud Superintendent of Osceola Area Schools, and thank you so much for coming out this evening to learn more about our upcoming attendance boundary changes. We have a lot of information that we're going to share tonight with you this first half of the evening, and some of the topics that we'll be going over this evening is just a little on who we are as a school district and how much acreage that we cover in the 8 cities that we're in, what an attendance boundary actually is, why attendance boundaries need changing at this time, that change process timeline, the parameters that were used to form the proposed scenarios that you'll be seeing this evening, the transition plan, and of course your opportunities to share your thoughts. Your thoughts are very important to us, so tonight we'll include splitting into smaller groups and getting feedback and asking questions just after the presentation. So as we share information in the next 30 minutes, make sure you take note of any comments or questions you may want to share afterwards. So Osceola Area Schools. So before we get started, let's just take a small minute to talk about one thing that we're striving to do at Osceola Area School District. So the last year, we've been working towards becoming one community for all, where all voices are valued and heard. That's not just something we say, that's something we're living by and working very hard for that to happen. So this means all of our stakeholders, all of our students, staff, parents, and caregivers, and community members play an important part in our district. And you are a valuable part of our district, and we want to make sure everyone here understands that. You should feel seen and appreciated as part of Osceola Area Schools always, whether that's today, tomorrow, or a few weeks from now, and a year from now. Please do understand that each and every one of you are important to us. So the main way that we ensure all voices are valued and heard is through a concept called holding space. It's foundational work here in the Osceola Area School District. And what that means is that holding space means that we're walking alongside another person on whatever journey they're on without judging them or making them feel inadequate, trying to fix them or trying to impact the outcome. When we hold space for other people, we open our hearts, we offer unconditional support, and we let go of judgment and control. So tonight, as we enter our space together, we do ask for everyone to be respectful and understand that each person here has their own narrative, their own questions, and their own lived experiences. And we will be inclusive of everyone here. All ideas are good ideas. So such an environment will allow us to be ensured that we're able to hear everyone is able to be their authentic self. This will help us build a more collaborative community as we venture through this attendance boundary change. So I just want to say thank you in advance for that. So who is Osceola Area School District? We're just going to look at some real quick facts on this. So Osceola Area Schools encompasses all the parts of 8 communities that ranges from Dayton, Rogers, and Cochrane in the far northwest parts to Plymouth to the south and Brooklyn Center to the east. Our largest communities, of course, is Brooklyn Park and Maple Grove. And with the city of Osceola in the center, about 160,000 community members live with this entire area. We are the 5th largest school district in the state of Minnesota, with approximately serving 21,000 students. More than 15,000 of our students choose to utilize the transportation service that is offered, and this equates to 36,000 buses daily. We have a total of 31 school buildings. Currently, there are 24 traditional elementary, middle, and high schools, and 7 special program sites, and these include an area learning center and early childhood centers. Soon there'll be a 32nd school building. Thanks to our community support for building a better future, a new elementary school is being built in the very northwest corner of the district, and that is set to open in fall of 2026. Our school buildings are between 24 and 100 years old. So the sizes of each vary, of course, because of the different time periods in which they were built, which has created capacity level differences amongst district schools. So this is most noticeable currently at our elementary school level. The more older schools, of course, tend to be smaller, and the newer schools a little larger. The school buildings are also placed where community growth was being experienced in those different areas and space that was available. So in the general 6, Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center seem to be more in established neighborhoods. Right now, in Maple Grove, Dayton, and Plymouth are more growing areas. So one last fact, in case you wanted to know, all these school buildings are spread out on 703 acres of land. So it's important to you to know as well, our community members feel how we're doing at achieving our mission. The good news is that feedback from our community continues to show that they think highly of us, and we're going to continue to work hard to earn that right. And we have strong support for what's being done. In a recent survey, as you can see, 82% of survey respondents say good or excellent on how well the quality of education in Osceola area schools is. 87% said all or most students' needs are being met, and 84% said they're proud of our schools and will recommend them to others. All right, let's dive into attendance boundaries. So some lingo we're using to share about this change can be confusing. We want to make sure that we're clear and understandable as you interact with this information this evening. So an attendance boundary is a geographical area from which students are eligible to attend a district school. This means your household address is assigned in elementary, middle, and high school. So in essence, this process may change the elementary and or middle school your household is currently set to attend. So a quick note, students may be moved between school buildings within the district, but attendance boundary changes will not impact which students are assigned to attend Osceola area schools versus area district schools like Anoka, Hennepin, Wayzata, or Robbinsdale. So the big question, why now? Why are we doing attendance boundaries now? More simply put, it has to do where our students are going and what our schools can hold in their capacity. This can obviously change from year to year or decade to decade. So we have a fabulous committee called the Enrollment and Capacity Management Advisory Committee, and our district has had it for several years, or ECMAC. And the role of ECMAC is they monitor enrollment shifts in conjunction with our building capacities for the last several years. Their most recent reports had detailed that a significant enrollment imbalance exists and that is at the point that it needs to be addressed. Specifically, there is a significant growth in the northwest portion of our district. Future housing and redevelopment are expected in these same areas. And in addition to this, there are also some district schools that are under capacity. So ECMAC's work helped to form the 2023 Building a Better Future Plan and our referendum. And from those suggestions, an additional facilities space became part of the 2023 referendum as a result. Again, we thank everyone in our public for that. And in turn, with the Building Better Future as well from 2023, a new elementary and additions will be added to Maple Grove Senior High was approved due to space constraints. So during the 2023 Build a Better referendum, it was additionally noted as well that attendance boundary changes were needed no matter what the outcome of the election and no matter what the referendum was going to do, we needed to do attendance boundary changes. So with additional facility space being added within the community's referendum support, attendance boundaries, listen to this closely, will be limited only to elementary and middle school, therefore impacting fewer families as promised. Just to be clear, that means there will be no changes made at the high school level, because that would just be awful. Okay, so we understand it's all awful, but to move one high school to another high school, they compete, that wouldn't be good. Okay, we understand that community members make lots of decisions based on their household school's assignment. So this process is not something we want to be doing often. In fact, it has been more than 15 years since we've last done changes on this scale. So we've come to the point that now is needed. So what is the timeline for this boundary change? The attendance boundary change process actually kicked off this past fall. At that time, community members had an opportunity to provide their thoughts on the parameters the core team should be creating to even create the proposed scenarios that have been shown the last few months. So we had input from 3,000 community members who participated and helped guide us on what those community-built parameters should be. Since late September, the attendance boundary changes core team has been utilizing these community-built parameters to develop proposed scenarios. And in January, 4 proposed scenarios were brought forth from that work. Nearly 3,500 community members shared their thoughts at that time. The feedback helped to lower the number of scenarios and make adjustments to them. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to provide input on those updates. These events in March will likely wrap up the district-wide feedback opportunities, so it's really, really important for us to hear your voice tonight. And please understand, it doesn't just have to be tonight. You're able to go online, you're able to process and give us that information. So in April, we'll be once again reviewing that community feedback and consider adjustments to all the updated scenarios, which we did with the first 4. Final attendance boundaries will then be announced in May, and the new attendance boundaries, however, will not go into effect until fall of 2026. You see in the connection, that's when the elementary school opens in 2026 as well. The only exception to this is Crestview Elementary. These families will make moves in the fall of 2025. Our Building a Better Future plan shared that an elementary school should be repurposed to serve pre-kindergarten grades, enrichment, and community-based programming needs. So after much consideration, Crestview Elementary was chosen to do this. So Crestview kindergarten through grade 5 students and staff will be moving schools this coming fall of 2025 and started their new school in 25-26. These families will not have to do another move in the fall of 26. So you're likely to put the two together, the 2026 timeline, everything matches up with the new school in the Northwest Maple Grove. So this time we're going to turn it over to John Morissette, Executive Director of Finance and Operations, to walk us through the parameters and those updated scenarios for this evening.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Heil. So we're going to start by taking a look at the community-built parameters that the core team worked with in order to create the proposed scenarios. They are center our core values, honor of integrity, belonging, inclusion, innovation, and excellence, transparency and intrinsic value, ensure scenarios can function within our system, including but not limited to transportation, building utilization and capacity, enrollment, both current and future, teaching and learning program offerings, and financial costs. Ensure scenarios have longevity in our system. Follow the teacher-student class targets established by the school board. Consider the number of students impacted in each scenario, and consider the student demographics of each scenario. As we continue, consider connecting more schools from level to level. Try to keep neighborhoods as intact as much as possible. Minimize non-contiguous, non-adjoining areas. Maintain the 0.8 of a mile elementary and 1 mile secondary transportation service areas for walk zones. Maintain safety standards in regard to bus routing, trying to avoid major highways, so on. Avoid lengthy travel times on buses, and comply with state laws, school board policy, and negotiated agreements. So you can see the list is a pretty good cross-section of parameters. As we reviewed and updated the scenarios, you may notice that some of the parameters adhere to more of these guidelines and others a little less, just depends on each scenario. The core team did their best to utilize all the parameters as much as possible, again, while utilizing the size schools and current placement of school buildings that we have today or are soon expecting. In just a few minutes, we'll be going through the updated scenarios. As Dr. Heil mentioned, you'll have the opportunity to provide feedback and ask questions in the small group portion of tonight's event, which is after the presentation. So in the meantime, please make sure to note any of your comments and questions and hang on to them, and we'll get to those as soon as the presentations are done. So a quick overview of our updated scenario. We're presenting you with 2 scenarios this evening. January scenarios 1 and 2 moved forward with some adjustments. Between 2,000 and 2,600 elementary and middle school students are proposed to move in these scenarios, which is approximately 9 to 12% of our total district enrollment. Bullet points 3 and 4 mention specific groups of students that would be impacted. As noted in the community-built parameters, this was looked at for all scenarios and just a snapshot of that. The racial demographics of schools wouldn't change by more than 5% in the majority of cases, and poverty demographics of schools also wouldn't change by more than 5% in the majority of cases. All right, so we're going to take a look at scenario number 1. I want to start by grounding you to what you're looking at to make sure we're all talking apples to apples. So scenario 1 that moved forward from the first section has been renamed 1A with some modifications to it. It's not exactly the same as January scenario 1. Those tweaks have been made, but I wanted to walk you through this. So to start, when you're looking at this from a colors perspective, the colors represent the middle schools. So orange is the boundary attendance area for Osseo Middle, red for Maple Grove Middle, green for Northview Middle, and blue for Brooklyn Middle. Within each color group, you will see proposed attendance boundaries for the elementary schools feeding each particular middle school. You'll also see one elementary school, Edenbrook Elementary, with a purple hashed coloring. This school is proposed to split to 2 middle schools. One of the goals in the parameters is to reduce the number of elementary schools that currently split between different middle schools. To give you a reference, today we have 7 elementary schools that split to more than 1 middle school. In both of the scenarios we're proposing, there is just 1 school that would split. In scenario 1, approximately 2,600 elementary and middle school students would be impacted. This is about 400 fewer than the January proposal. Some of the strengths of this scenario are building use and efficiency, elimination of non-adjoining geographic areas, and an improved feeder-like structure as students would move with classmates from elementary to middle school. And this scenario would last for the foreseeable future. Specifics on the elementary school, neighborhoods would remain mostly intact as more natural barriers such as major roadways, parks, creeks, and lakes are utilized. All but 1 school building, being Oakview, would be within its own attendance boundary, meaning the students closest to each would be able to attend and potentially walk there. At the middle school, the non-adjoining geographic areas that currently exist near Northview Middle School would be eliminated. And all but 1 school building, Brooklyn Middle School, would be within its own attendance boundary, meaning again, closest students would be able to walk and attend potentially their closest school. In both of those scenarios with Oakview and BMS, their attendance area is across the street. So they still have a walk zone, it's just in one direction, not in a circle around the building. Okay, so this is scenario 2A, which has been updated. We could carry forward scenario 2 from the first round, made some changes, and have 2A. This affects approximately 2,000 elementary and middle school students, which is about 100 fewer than the January proposal. Some of the strengths of this scenario are its low number of changes, functionality within the system, including efficiencies with building use and transportation services, elimination of almost all non-adjoining geographic areas, and an improved feeder-like structure as students would again move more frequently with classmates from elementary to middle school. This scenario would last for the foreseeable future. Specifics at the elementary school level, neighborhoods would remain mostly intact as more natural barriers again are followed. Following the similar from the first scenario, 1 elementary school building, being Oakview, would not be within its own attendance boundary, but again, right across the street would be within it. So most students can walk to their closest neighborhood school. At the middle school level, we've eliminated non-adjoining geographic areas that currently exist in the Northview Middle School area. And again, same information with Brooklyn Middle School, would not be within its own attendance boundary, but the line starts right across the street. So now that you've seen the updated scenarios, the common question is, how does this affect me and my family? To help you with that, please check out the Boundaries website for interactive maps for each proposed scenario, in which you can type in your address and find out the specific impacts for you for each scenario. The website is district279.org/boundaries. Chromebooks are available tonight if you'd like to take a look, right over on the table back there. Next, we want to take just a few minutes to go through some commonly asked, frequently asked questions. More questions can, of course, be asked in your small groups and are available extensively on the website. One of the most common questions that we want, that we get is, if I want to go to a different school in my boundary, can I? There's, we'll say yes and no. There's a couple answers to this for you. So in short, here's the best way that we can explain how we are going to handle this. First of all, if you've taken action to select a different school for your child than their current assigned school, meaning you have applied for in-district transfer or you are an open enroll family from outside of our district boundaries coming in, you've taken action on your students' enrollment. You have the right to maintain that action that you've taken. We've already made a promise to you. We are going to honor our promise that we made to you. So you get to hold that same status. You do not need to reapply for anything to maintain the status where you are. As shared in January, students attending their home school will be required to attend the school that they're assigned to through the change process. One adjustment, however, has been made to this. Feedback from the January meetings was very clear that the impact on students in the transitional years of 5th grade and 8th grade, that people's requests were that we allow a hold harmless and allow those folks to finish elementary 5th grade in their existing school and middle school 8th grade in their existing school. So the district made the decision. We listened, we hear you, and we agree, and will allow 5th graders to have a choice if they would like to remain in their current elementary for the one last year. And 8th graders, again, this is in the 26-27 school year, will have that same option to remain in that school. There is one caveat that's important to note. The district does not have the ability to provide transportation for that just due to the complexity. But we are, again, willing to at least make sure that that opportunity is available for families. Excuse me. The currently restricted in-district transfer and open enrolled schools will remain in place until the review has been completed, which will happen no later than mid-January of 2027, which will be the time in time for any new in-district transfer requests for the 27-28 school year. So we will be closed for any in-district transfer until January of 2027, where that process will open up. Fernbrook is a great example of this. That building has been very tight for quite some time, and one of the reasons why we're doing this is we need to see how the boundary changes will actually impact the schools before in-district transfer takes over and starts drastically changing that. Busing information that goes along with these changes will be shared as it usually is in the regular back-to-school season. So fall of 26 implementation, expect to see that communication in August of 2026. Lots more answers to frequently asked questions have been added to the district's boundaries website. Again, feel free to check them out, district279.org/boundaries. And at this time, I'm going to turn it back to Dr. Heil to talk about transition and feedback.
All right, it's almost your time to talk and give us your input. So first of all, our district really appreciates the flexibility with these changes. We know our entire auxiliary schools team is here to help with that transition. Please know that in all of our schools, as always, we'll be very welcoming to all of our new baby, I call our students our babies as they have my life, but students, scholars, and their families as this change is made. And please know to make sure to reach out and connect if your school is reassigned. Also, if you do have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to our hotline and build a better future at district279.org or the phone number listed 763-391-8990. Okay, now we're here at the time that the reason that you came here, the feedback portion of the evening. As I've shared before, our community voice is very important. Just like the information we received from prior meetings, scenarios were changed. We've listened to you, so please take your time to share it tonight. Once again, if you need to process more with it, look at it, and then you can also share in another way. So this evening, there's two ways you can choose to provide feedback. Option one is you've been assigned to a group, and your name tag color matches a small group that you'll be part of. So the facilitator of that small group will hold up a color for that group so you can easily find where you can go in that room. So if you haven't been assigned, feel free to check in at the check-in table and we'll be able to give you the card. The second way, of course, you can provide feedback is to utilize the QR code on the screen or fill out the Google form via the website link. So all your feedback, whether it's in the group or on the form, will be viewed by our core team and taken into consideration. Please know we do take your feedback into consideration. Once again, final attendance boundaries are expected to be approved by the board in May. Change doesn't happen till fall of 2026. Okay, there's several ways for you to stay informed. Refer to district279.org/boundaries for the latest. Parent and caregivers can stay tuned in regular updates. We supply via email and text. All of our community members can connect to Better Future at district279.org. Or once again, that number 763-391-8990. All right, now is your time for tonight to help us make these needed changes the best that we can be. Thank you for being tonight, and please share your voice with us. Thank you.